Hello everybody, welcome, and thank you for all joining today. So today we're going to talk about the people, the process, the technology, and the governance. But first I want to ask you a few questions. By show of hands, how many of you trust your instinct? Most of you trust yourself, that's good. And a few other questions. How many of you have ever said any of the following? By show of hands, I'll see it when I believe it. I want to hear it directly from the horse's mouth. Or I want to hear it directly from the source if you don't listen to horses. Anybody? They believe it when I see it, correct. Well, not so much today. So let's dive back into the people, the process, technology, and governance as it relates to the intersection of cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. So let's talk about the people part first. When we look at organizations obviously, they look to the right folks to hire within the organizations, the right makeup of what they need, but they also need to dive into the cyber hygiene of the organization in order to support the people within the organization. What does that mean? Ongoing training within the organization that is relevant. However, if you dive back to what we just said before, I'll see it when I believe it. Trust your instinct. Hear it from the horse's mouth. You have folks who are sitting there within their organizations. Maybe they're getting a phishing email. Okay, emails are easy to now understand. You could raise the flag, ring the bell, whatever you need to do to let your folks know that it's not something that they want to answer. They shouldn't open it. We all know that pretty much. But what if you are somebody, let's say that the CFO trusts within the organization, and you have direct contact with the CFO, and all of a sudden during the day you're working diligently, and you get a WhatsApp from the CFO, directly how you typically might communicate, or an SMS, and you see a video. The CFO is like, Mark, listen, I'm traveling now, I'm taking off, my long journeys that I have to do, whatever, flight to flight, wherever I'm going. Do me a favor, take care of client X, send them the check for $50,000, get it done. When I land, I want to know it's fine. Typically, we all heard of that via SMS or whatever you're getting, whether it being a text message. Probably not from the source, but what if you hear their voice? What if you see a video? What if there's that level of urgency and importance that you need to do your job in a way that's expected of you? And you're trusting your instinct. You're trusting what you see, and you're trusting what you hear, because today, as humans, this is how we're built. We need to rely on our senses. We need to rely on what we trust. Trust is earned, but it's earned in many different ways within our lives. We see somebody, we hear what they're saying, we validate it in many different ways, but what if that can't be anymore? What if you can't trust what you hear? What if you can't trust what you see? What if trust is not together with what you typically build it up to be? That's a big problem organizations are having across the board. They have a workforce, they have folks within the organizations who they're trying to train, but things are being toppled off on its head. AI is taken over on so many different levels and being brought into organizations at warp speed, sometimes a little bit faster than it should. AI should not be replacing humans completely across the board, but AI should be side by humans, almost like your helper. You have AI on so many levels, but we're still dealing with hallucinations, with LLMs. We're still dealing with all these problems that can't be fully validated. So when folks within your organization, we're talking about the people, if they don't feel supported, if they feel that they can't rely on the specific levels of their nature of trust and validation, how do they go about training? What do you do in order to give them what they need within the organization? The process is really the glue between the people and the technology. Obviously, we talked about people, and we could talk about that for an hour, but we only have 15 minutes, so we have to go fast. You have the process, the glue, you have the technology, the updated security within the organization. The organization has technology that they're either building to sell to other folks, or they have technology and security within the organization to secure their organization and the people within the organization. So what's that glue? What's the process there? The process is the acting between the people and the technology. What are the supports? What is the makeup? What is the culture of your organization? What is the day-to-day, and how do you go about doing that? So I just want to dive back to one quick little helpful hint I'll give you on how you could trust, how you can validate. Seeing is not believing. Hearing is not believing. Unless you're standing there right in front of the person, you have that chance of being tricked. So here's a little helpful hint you could use at work, you could use in your home life, and I highly encourage you all to do this. So you need to have a safe word that could be as simple as apple. Something that does not relate to your life in any which way, nothing about your pastimes or your hobbies or something that can be found online. Something that you could trust and a word that can be trusted that you use either could be with a spouse, with your children, with your executives, that you can honestly know when it's said to you, whether it's in one of these videos or whatever it is, that that person is who they say they are. For example, go back to the CFO sending the message. CFO sends the message, Mark, banana. Yeah, it's me. You know, it's something that can be trusted because it's not relatable to anything, but it's their safe word. It should not be written down anywhere. It should not be emailed anywhere. It's back to the old ages of human to human, understanding people. So that is a very important way to move along the level of trust. And understand today's makeup of our workforce is the first time ever, really 4 generations sitting side by side. You have millennials all the way up to the boomers who learn differently, communicate differently, and trust differently. When you're doing and talking about training within your organization, you should have different levels of training for all different makeups within your organization, but don't tell somebody, hey, you're old, so you're gonna learn this way. You don't get it. You wanna have it available for them to choose of something that makes sense to them. And then we move along to the governance. The governance is really how your organization works. What is the culture of your organization? What are the rule sets? Are you telling people to do what you say, or are you making them part of the solution? The human is known as the weakest link in the chain. Why? Human nature. We all have said it. I made a mistake. It's human nature. I didn't realize. Negligent insider threat. What is that? Is that somebody trying to harm their organization? It's somebody who did something by accident. Somebody who's maybe working at warp speed when all organizations are multitasking, people are multitasking, people have many different devices. Even go back to when COVID happened, we were all locked down. Maybe if we worked for an organization and we did what they were told, we had our secure space, our office, where we only used work machines, where we only thought about work and acted in a way that we do at work, but not at home where things are a little more loose. Let's say your kid needed to do some homework, so you needed to run over there, but you didn't want to take out the plugs from your work computer, so you used your handheld device. What is the governance that you expect from your employees, and how do you institute a level of cyber culture within your organization so people want to adhere to it because they feel part of the solution? So as AI is maturing, and as we talk about the intersection of AI and the people, the process, the technology, and the governance, how do we move this along in a way that it's going to work? It's obvious and very simple to dial it back to the very simple thing. It's really about the human. There's always a human on every side of it. There's a human who's either trying to attack you or attack the system, which in turn attacks the business. There's a human on the other end. So when we look at all these things, we really have to dial it back and understand what are we trying to accomplish and how do we arm the folks who are working for us, with us, or working against us? What is the psychology behind it? And how do we move along as partners within it? When AI is sitting alongside a person can be not just armed, a person can be validated, but they have that tool could help them work better, faster, stronger. But then there's also the human that can check to see that the AI is working the way it should be. We can't just let AI run rampant on its own because there are still mistakes. There are still things that happen that could curtail even the smartest people out there and the best machines out there, certainly today. Yes, there are ways it is advancing, but we need to dial it back to the people, the process, the technology, and the governance across all levels of the ecosystem of our cybersecurity world. Thinking about that on many different levels when the workforce is looking at how do we advance ourselves? What do we need to do to put it into place? Looking at your environment and also looking at the makeup of your community, you could find the smartest people if armed properly. You'll have not only the best company out there and the strongest security within the company, you'll be able to give it out to the community as well in terms of what you're selling, what you're doing. But if you have any holes within your cybersecurity chain within the organization, and typically it boils down to the human, That's one entree point. And as we know, there are many entree points we have to look at. The CISOs, I speak to dozens of CISOs every month. I have a wonderful advisory board, which I think a few of them are here in the audience today, of CISOs, world-renowned CISOs, and talk to them. One of the biggest problems they're facing today is there's so much to do and so little budget to get it done with. What do? We look for the pain points. What are the things we have to focus on first? And a lot of the time, there are legacy systems that are out there that they just don't have the budget for yet, and they figure it's good enough. How many of you have heard the words, it's good enough, we don't have to focus on it yet? Anybody? I think everybody. We don't want to admit it. There's not enough budget to go around to buy everything. There's not enough budget to do the latest and greatest. So look at your important assets within your organization, which are your humans. If you're able to not only tell your people what you expect of them, but use them as your army of people that are not just validated that you care about them, that they matter and their opinions matter, that changes the game. I talk a lot about the focus of the humans and how that relates to an organization. When you have folks within your organization, they're your first line of defense. You will hear from them if they feel that they want to be heard. If you have a closed door community and a closed door type feel where they can't relate to you, they can't speak to you, the 360 feedback is not there, you're going to have problems. But if you envelop them and treat them as your assets rather than your liabilities, it'll take you that much further. And you move along to that intersection of cybersecurity and AI, where you have the human, where you have AI working alongside us to make us that much better, that much quicker, that much faster, you will have a winning proposition. Thank you.